I still remember the sound her chair made in the sand. Not wheels, not legs. A soft dragging scrape, then a pause, then another scrape, like something small refusing to die politely. I was driving Supply Crawler 6 through the pale flats outside Glassmere when I found her. The map called the place the Thessaloniki Exclusion Belt, but the locals just called it the White Mouth because nothing came back from there with moisture in it. Not animals, not machines, not people who thought bravery counted as preparation. She was sitting under the broken shade of a survey mast, wrapped in gold cloth that had gone gray with dust. At first, I thought she was dead. Then one thin hand lifted, not toward me, but toward the sun. I should have kept driving. That is the first honest thing I need to say. The Qatari had laws about noble bloodlines, and humans on Thessaloniki had agreements with the Court of Iron Silk. We were guests, contractors, useful little mammals with heat filters and ugly boots. We did not interfere in internal family matters, especially not when those family matters belonged to Baron Thale Osser, whose seal was stamped into the gold clasp at her throat. His daughter, abandoned, still breathing. I climbed out anyway. She watched me with these black, what I set too far apart for a human face, and I remember being ashamed of noticing the wrong things first. Her spine had twisted badly. Her lower limbs were folded under her in a way no living body should allow. One side of her mouth didn't move when she tried to speak. I asked her name. She made a sound like cracked glass. I thought she was begging for water. She was not. That took me too long to understand. I gave her half my canteen, wrapped my emergency tarp around her, and lifted her into the crawler. She weighed almost nothing. That bothered me more than it should have. Noble children, I had been told, were fed on mineral milk and pearl fruit. They were carried under shade silk. They were touched only by licensed hands. This child had desert mites in her hair. When I started the engine, she began striking the metal wall with 2 fingers. Tap, 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 pause, tap. I told her to stop because I thought the sound meant pain. She stared at me like I was the crippled one. By the time I reached St. Olo Clinic, every alarm in my console was flashing. Not because of heat, not because of sand damage, because Baron Osser had already reported his daughter dead. Her name was Nivra Osser. The clinic director, Mays Joran, read the notice twice and then looked at me like I had dragged a bomb indoors. You found no one, he said. But Nivra raised her hand again and tapped the steel bed frame. Tap, 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 pause, tap. I don't know why I answered. Maybe guilt, maybe stupidity, maybe because my younger brother used to knock on the wall between our rooms when he was scared at night, and I had spent a childhood learning how to answer through plaster. So I tapped back. 1. Her eyes changed, not brightened. That would make it sound pretty. They sharpened, like a locked door realizing someone on the other side had a key. For 3 days, she spoke only through taps. Not words at first. Patterns. Corrections. Anger. More anger than fear. She hated being washed. Hated the soft food. Hated that everyone spoke over her as if a bent body meant an empty mind. On the 4th day, she tapped the rhythm of the clinic's water pump before it failed. 12 minutes before. We thought it was luck. Then she did it again with the oxygen valve in Ward C. Then with the west wall support. Then with my own crawler, 1 hour before its rear axle cracked clean through. Nivra could not walk. Her voice could barely carry across a room. But through metal, stone, pipe, and bone, she could feel stress before it became disaster. Her father had not abandoned a useless daughter. He had abandoned an instrument his entire house was too proud to understand. I wish that was the worst of it. Baron Osser's men came on the 9th night. 3 silent skimmers, no clinic markings, no public warrant. Their captain wore a mourning sash for the girl he had come to collect alive. Mays told me to hide her in the cold room. Nivra refused. She tapped my wrist so hard it bruised. Then she pointed down, under the clinic. At first, I thought she meant basement. Then the floor trembled. Not much, just enough for the hanging lamps to sway. The Red Anvil mine sat 4 kilometers east of US, sealed after a bad collapse years before humans arrived. Qatari maps said the tunnels ended far from Glassmere. Nivra knew they didn't. She tapped the bed frame in a fast, ugly rhythm, and I followed it with a grease pencil on the wall because I had no better idea and no time to be smart. Lines, pauses, repeats, a map made of fear. The mine was shifting under the clinic, under half the city, and Baron Osser's skimmers, landing heavy outside, were were shaking loose the last supports. I ran out before his men reached the doors. I did not make a speech. I did not threaten anyone. I picked up a wrench and smashed the landing beacon so their pilots had to lift again. One of them broke my jaw with a rifle stock. I still have the plate. But the skimmers rose. That was enough. Inside, Nivra kept tapping. We evacuated St. Olo, then Glassmere's lower quarter, then the old market where the spice sellers cursed us until the ground opened behind their stalls and swallowed 3 empty streets. No one called her crippled after that. Not where I could hear. The Court of Iron Silk held inquiry for 6 weeks. Baron Osser claimed grief had confused him, claimed desert raiders had taken her, claimed humans had manipulated a disabled noble child for political leverage. Nivra answered through a brass plate on the table. Tap, 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 pause, tap. The court translator wept before finishing. I kept the old survey mast clasp. Not because it was gold. Because when Nivra was older, after she founded the listening houses beneath Glassmere, after Qatari engineers began training beside human mechanics, and children with crooked limbs stopped disappearing from noble nurseries, she asked me what I first thought when I saw her in the desert. I lied. I said I knew she was important. She tapped once. No, I have carried that tap longer than the broken jaw, longer than the trial, longer than the day the city named a dry riverbed after me instead of her. Because the truth is, I did not see her worth. Not at first. I only saw a child left to die. And maybe that was the most human thing I did. Not saving greatness. Just refusing to leave weakness in the sand.